Jake Retzlaff has withdrawn from BYU in a move that was kind of expected, but not in this manner. Let's talk about what this means for BYU, what this means for Jake Retzlaff, and what it means for us. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year-round. If that is something you're into, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. What do you think happens next for Jake Retzlaff, and what do you think BYU is going to do at quarterback in 2025? It's interesting. I got some answers. I'm also going to take this opportunity to remind you that we have an audio podcast on Apple and Spotify. And if you are kind enough to go to Apple and Spotify and leave us a 5-star review, I will put this sticker in the mail to you with a thank you note. As a matter of fact, we're getting to that point where I'm trying to do this once a month. I sit down in front of a live stream that's super chill. People that show up. We talk through it while I fill out your thank you cards and lick, stamp, send in the mail. Okay. So, Jake Retzlaff announced today he is withdrawing from BYU and expects to transfer to somewhere else by simply enrolling, meaning he is going to forego entering his name into the transfer portal as a means of facilitating where he's going to play college football next. That's interesting. It's interesting for a number of reasons. One is you go into the transfer portal, people get access to you in a very different way, right? Whereas if you are just enrolling, you can have impersonal conversations with anybody that you would like to, or you can just show up wherever that place might be and decide that you want to go to school at Notre Dame if they're going to let you in, right? You want to go to school at North Carolina if they want to let you in. You want to go to school at Ohio State if they want to let you in. And I say if they want to let you in because, A, you still do have to apply to college. There's no longer any open enrollment. That is a thing of the past. Matter of fact, whenever the old heads try to tell us, I paid off my student loans, lickety split, I'm like, dog, you went open enrollment where you could literally walk up to them, say, I want to go to college at LSU, and they just going to be like, cool, right this way. Give us your $7 for the semester. Have fun. We don't do that anymore. It is a production to get into college. To get into college, it's a production, let alone get any sort of financial aid. I mean, they be doling it out, but it ain't the kind of financial aid you think they be doling out. It's a drop in the bucket for many, especially if you go to a private university, not unlike BYU or Notre Dame or Baylor and so on for most of these universities with a tremendous religious background. And that is what BYU is. What was interesting about Jake Retzlaff being at BYU is, A, people forget this. He was competing with Jerry Bohannon for a job. Okay. Second, he's Jewish. And that's news at a place like BYU. They've not had that quarterback before. It is not often that you see folks that choose to go to BYU who are not members of the Church of Latter-day Saints. Like, if that's not where you go to church, usually you don't go to school there. Because there are things that vibe with the church that might not vibe with you, right? This is also how we kind of got here with Jake Retzlaff in a roundabout way, right? A roundabout way meaning why he's withdrawing from BYU. But we got here because he was accused of sexual assault, and that suit was dismissed. The things he was accused of are not things that I'm going to repeat here. I will say you can go read that if you want to. And you might think some kind of way about Jake Retzlaff, one way or the other. I think, hey, look, man, you sign up to go to BYU, there's an honor code, right? And knowing that there's an honor code, you know that they don't do the premarital sex, that people continue to think in those terms. Maybe you don't go to school there. I mean, that's it, right? You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't vibe with the honor code, then don't sign the honor code and don't go to BYU. But he did. He went to BYU, signed the honor code, and there are rather strict punishments for violating the honor code. One of them things was for him looking like a 7-game suspension where he wasn't going to be able to play for more than half the season. ain't nothing to do with that except eat it and or, do what he's doing, which is going, nah, miss me with that. This is my last year of college football. I'm not about to sit out more than half the season to not play college football. Okay, cool, bet. He's gone his way, and BYU has gone theirs. And aside from how we got here, I've been impressed by how both Jake Retzlaff and BYU have comported themselves throughout this. Kalani Sitake saying all the right things at Big 12 Media Days, leading with, I love Jake. I wish Jake the best. Jake was cool for us. Jake was good for us. I want him to be the first person to be able to speak on this, and he was. Same thing is true of the athletic director at BYU. And it feels like the separation will be as amicable as it can be, which is depending on your vantage point, not at all. It's one of them, with all due respects, which could be done type situations, right? The level of respect is dependent person to person. It's odd for us as folks that have not signed that honor code to see this playing out in 2025, but that's just what it is. That's what it is. So what are we going to do if we are BYU? Well, we're going to look to McKay Hillstead, Drayson Bourget, and Bear Bachmeier, which ain't exactly Jake Retzlaff. Now, that said, people forget the strength of BYU was not really Jake Retzlaff. He held things together when it's time to hold things together, but they ran the ball well. LJ Martin, 718 yards, and I think Chase Roberts had 852. Maybe Chase Roberts doesn't get the kind of service that he got last year, but LJ Martin's going to get more, right, because you're going to be breaking in a new quarterback. But the thing for them last year was the defense. They were number one in the league in defense, 19.3 points per game scoring, 318 yards per game allowed, 29 turnovers forced. They were number one in all those categories in the Big 12. They just didn't get an opportunity to play for the Big 12 championship because tiebreakers are weird. I think if the defense continues to be what the defense was, everything's fine, right? You'll figure it out with your quarterback. You'll figure it out with all three of those quarterbacks. That not a single one of them has thrown for more than 1,400 yards in their entire careers, let alone throwing for those yards at BYU. That doesn't bother me so much as, can you make it happen defensively? If you can make it happen defensively and you can run the ball with LJ Martin, you're going to be in most games. And that's what they were last year. They were in most games, and they end up winning 11. And Retzlaff had a really great game against Colorado, which made more people believe that this was the year for BYU to perhaps make the college football playoff, if not win the Big 12 championship. Stranger things have happened. Stranger things will happen. But I just don't see that anymore. Like, this was a team that, for me, as I'm finishing the 136, I was thinking about, is this a top 25 team? To no, it is not. It's almost as soon as he is no longer a part of it and running the quarterback. So that's how important he was. He was the thing that was keeping them toward the ceiling that I think they could have. The floor has changed because he's gone as well, right? And it's not math that you really have to do that often with a returning starter at quarterback. I'll give you another example. C.J. Bailey was thrust into playing at NC State last year because Grayson McCall went down, and as freshman season gone, I thought it was good. 2,400 yards, 17 TDs, 10 picks. He's going to be their first returning starting quarterback, like back-to-back years, since 2018. So the idea of North Carolina State going 6-7 this year is like they did last year. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to get back to doing their 8-9 win game thing. As a matter of fact, they've had 3 losing seasons, or I should say they have 3 seasons where they didn't win at least 7 games in the last 15 years. So 12 out of 15 years, they're winning 7 games or more. I think they're going to do that because C.J. Bailey's back. If C.J. Bailey was not back, maybe we're having a different discussion about what that looks like. I hope that makes sense, but this is how I wanted to talk about this, even as